All right, guys, I think we are live. If you're having trouble hearing me tonight, let me know. I took off my headsets, so I have to see how well that works. I've got on a mic, but again, we'll have to see how well everything works. I've got some coffee brewing over there, so at some point I'm going to jump over and pour me a pot. My little vacuum pot has run out today, so that means I went through quite a bit of coffee. I poured out my first 5 cups that I poured, I ended up pouring them out because somebody, either my wife or a customer, came through the door, and once it got cold, I poured it out. Anyway, backing up a little bit, I'm Ashley Williams. This is Legacy Farms Coffee Podcast. I'm coming to you from the roastery right in front of our house in Mound Ridge, Kansas. Next week, I'm going to be Tuesday night's podcast. I might do a Sunday night podcast, but Tuesday night's podcast is going to be done on the back porch. It might be done a little bit earlier. I would like to do it before it got dark. So I'll see. I forget what time it is there now, if we're an hour ahead or an hour, whatever. But I will get that on as quick as I can, and I'll go ahead and schedule all 5 podcasts. I'm going to be on the farm for 10 days, the 14th through the 24th. So the 15th, we'll be putting some Facebook stuff on. We're going to be doing a little bit of fireworks, some stuff like that. And then the rest of the week, we're working on the kids' schoolroom. And that's going to be that knock on the door is Eli telling me he's going on a bike ride. And so hopefully we can get the roof completely finished on the kids' classroom. And then the guys will start finishing the concrete and doing stuff like that, which will take them the next couple of months. There's just 3 contractors working. So if anybody feels like writing a check, go ahead and make that check out to lfmissions.org and send it to, you can look us up on the website. It's 2214 Arapahoe Road, Mound Ridge, Kansas, 67107. But it's not hard to track me down and figure out how to get us a check for that. It's all tax deductible and all that good stuff. Anyway, I am oversee the growing. I'm definitely not the grower. It's my farm, but the workers do all the work, and I just sort of try to keep everything coordinated. Anna is going to be on the podcast next week for a few minutes. She only speaks Spanish, so I'm going to do a little bit of translating. So if anybody wants to ask Anna any questions, then now's the time to send those. And Santos will be on there with me. I'm pretty sure Tuesday night he's going to be on. He also guards on the farm, so I'm pretty sure that Tuesday night I'm going to schedule him to guard, so he'll be around. Also, only speaks Spanish, so if you want to hear a few questions from Santos, let me know. I'm hoping that his coffee buyer is also going to be able to join me. That's Jose. It's just weird, but I put these 2 guys together. Jose lives in Houston, and he has a coffee roastery there. He sells roasted coffee, through the mail, through the door, just like we do. Anyway, we found those 2 guys. His name is Jose. I put him with my guy Santos. Jose came to the farm for a visit, and come to find out both of their names are Jose Santos. Just sort of a fun fact, something you might want to write down, remember. But anyway, this year, for any of you smaller roasters, and I mean like farmers market, no bigger, I'm going to have a few extra coffees in. I'm going to have a little bit of maybe Pedro's coffee. I've got to see if it all made. The shipper we ship with won't let us ship partial bags. So I think I have a partial bag of Pedro's. Well, I know I had some of Pedro's at one time. I've just got to find out, did it make the container? So we'll have to see how that works out. We've also, they're shipping our coffee. It was very late. Shipping's been weird this year. So it's not going to ship until the 16th. It's supposed to hit port around the 21st. And from there, it goes through the process, hopefully getting here October the 30th. I'll be back on the 24th. So everything should, start flowing pretty good at that point. And the 30th, I will be set to start taking orders. We'll probably go ahead, once we know it's cleared port and it's gone into their warehouse, we're going to go ahead and start pre-selling coffee. And then the second it's here and we get it unloaded and organized, we'll be able to start shipping. You guys will have to pay a week ahead of time, but your coffee will get put in the mail a few days ahead of time, rather than if I just waited and ordered it then. This is part 5 of the 5-part series of sort of a bean's life, or the journey of the coffee, or something like that. I forgot what we named it at the beginning. I'm having trouble with my StreamYard. So if anybody uses StreamYard for their podcast, let me know, because I can definitely use some help on that. Right now, it showed that my both Facebook things were shut down, but it showed it was going to go out on YouTube and not Instagram. So you never know. I'm seeing a Legacy Farms logo up here, but I think that's just our logo. So I know we're going out on Legacy Farms Coffee 200 on YouTube. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it works out. We've covered picking, we've covered the varieties, we've covered the processes, we've covered drying, storing. So the next thing that happens is, once the coffee is rested for about 90 days, excuse me, then we start the process of selecting it. The first thing we do is start organizing the lots. We usually try to get the most done as fast as possible, and we're training new women. So we start out with a washed coffee. So we'll pull a couple of the oldest, largest lots that we have that are in washed. The reason for doing that is the washed has less defects. And so we're going to try to train the ladies looking for defects, but not have them overwhelmed with defects. The other coffees definitely have more defects, especially the natural has a lot of defects in it. Oh, excuse me. And so because of that, it makes the training a little bit easier. And washed is a lot cleaner coffee. We get a lot more yield out of the washed. A few people have asked about our yields. I'll have to look that up. But as soon as the sorting starts, we pull out what bags we want. We start bringing them into what we call the Triga house. And that's just a Trigadora, which is Spanish. It's a dehuller. So the coffee in parchment has a thick skin on it. That's not the silver skin, it's the parchment. And so this dehuller is going to pull 99% of those husks off. So from that point, it goes straight into a bag, and then they take it to the sorting lab. We've got about a 14, 18-foot table, 10 women sit in it. Then we've got a set of 4 tables that are the training tables. The ladies will sit on those training tables. There's a black, a blue, a black, and a blue. And the black is for an experienced woman. The blue is for the new one. Then there's going to be another black for experienced, another blue, so forth, so on. And then there's a third table. It's just a regular old table covered in black plastic. We cover in black plastic because the tables are wooden. It's a lot more sanitary. In the afternoons, they have to bleach everything down. Twice in 4 years, we've had a lot that had a little bit of mold on it. So at that point, you take that coffee out, and then you wash everything down with bleach. So, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I know twice we've had like some small lots. The small lots tend to have mold. The big lots don't. The small lots tend to get ignored sometimes, and so we lose more small lots than we do big lots. So once the ladies start selecting that coffee, Anna will come by the selecting table with a black tray and a white tray. And the women have 2 buckets down by their feet. So right in front of them, the length of the table is about 1.5 foot mound of coffee. So they just reach out with their scoop and drag some coffee in front of them, and they start selecting. The good beans go to the right, the bad beans go to the left. When they have a decent pile, they stop what they're doing, they scoot back and drag them into one of those buckets, scoot the buckets back under the table, keep selecting. So that's what they do all day. Anna will come by and pull their 2 buckets out. She'll take, and each one of these trays has the station number. So there's 10 ladies at the first table, so obviously it's stations 1 through 10. She'll take tray number 5, the white tray number 5, black tray number 5, go over to Danya's station is 5, so she'll go and dip. With the white tray, she's going to dip out of the selected coffee that's supposed to be good. Then with the black tray, she goes into the bucket of defects. Then she takes those trays over to the inspection table. Once on the inspection table, she'll dump the black out, and the black is supposed to be defects. So the idea is she's trying to see how many good beans got put in with the defects. And then on the white one, she'll dump it out, and she's going to find out how many defects are in the black, or in the white tray. And that's the good coffee, supposedly. So if the number is more than, in those small trays, if there's more than like 2 or 3, then she's going to have that woman reselect both those buckets. We pay our workers by the day because we want them to have a steady pace. If we pay them by the pound, they're going to be trying to work as fast as humanly possible, and they're going to be making a lot of mistakes. So we've paid them both ways, and we did an average between what they would make if they selected hard and what they would make by a standard day's pay. We came up with a pay that everybody likes. No, I'm not going to tell you what that is, but because we've had people ask, what do you pay to pick? What do you pay to select? People don't understand, especially on the picking, people don't understand how much coffee is picked. And then if you start figuring out per pound, you don't know whether that coffee is going to be perfect and it's going to equal 6.5 pounds of cherry to 1 pound of selected coffee, or we've done as much as 9 pounds of cherry equaling 1 pound. So when you start doing those numbers, it's not a really good guide of exactly what the cost is put into the coffee. People have been asking for our price sheet for our coffee and our selections, or whatever you call, I forget what you call it. There's a name for it. Our offerings. Until the guy tells me what my shipping's going to be, we can't do the offerings. We won't know the shipping until the day the coffee gets here. He'll give us a bill that day, and he's waiting until the trucker gives him the bill. So as soon as that coffee's unloaded, and we don't get fined for going over 2 hours on the unload, we don't get fined for him getting his truck stuck or something like that, then he'll give us that night. What I'm going to do tomorrow night is give a list of offerings with a rough idea within 25 cents a pound of what the coffee is going to be. And then I'll go ahead and post that. And then in about 2 weeks, we'll go ahead and start taking orders. I'm probably going to do another podcast tomorrow night that I'm going to push a little more, and we're going to talk more about that. So right now we've got the ladies selecting the coffee, and when they select it, they're just pouring it back into a protected bag with a Grain Pro bag on the inside of it. So at that point, they're going to pull some 2-pound samples out of each of those lots. Once that's done, they're going to quickly send it off to have it cupped. So once I get the cupping scores back, then I'll make the decision according to what this cupping score is. I don't mix more than 1/2 point. So if there's some bags that are 84.5 and there's some bags that are 85 and they share 75% of the same cupping notes, then I'll mix those two together. And then whatever that extra cupping note was, I'll discard it from what I show you guys. So if it says chocolate and caramel with the citrus finish, and that's on one lot, but then there's 4 lots of this say chocolate and caramel, then more than likely I'm going to get rid of that citrus, because by the time we mix all that coffee together, it's probably going to drown out that citrus. If the coffee is 50 and 50, weight-wise is 50 and 50, it's 0.5 point away, and half the lot said citrus, notes of citrus, and the other notes were chocolate and caramel, then I might list it as hints of citrus. But that's where it gets complicated. It takes a lot of time. If it's a really close decision, then I'm going to go in there and cup it myself and see if I can tell the difference. If I can't tell the difference, we're just going to go ahead and mix that lot with whatever I decide to mark down. And then we sort of go from that. At that point, when all the cupping is done, then we convert all the cupping's done, all the coffee's been selected, and I've made my notes on which lots are going to get mixed together. Then the guys will start pulling those lots. They'll take all the tables out that we were using to select the coffee on. They're going to pull all those out. They're going to get the big set of certified scales and drag those out into the middle of the floor. And then they're going to start mixing coffee together. They're going to put it in, getting ready to export. I am going to jump back a little bit. I skipped. I have my notes, and even though I have my notes, I still didn't read them in order. Once we know exactly how many pounds of coffee that we have, I divide that by 150, and then I know how many exportable bags of coffee we're going to have. So let's say I have 1,500 pounds of coffee. I'm going to have 10 exportable bags of coffee. So once I know how many pounds, I have to divide that by 100. And then that will tell me how many 100-pound bags that I'm going to have to pay the government for. So for every 100 pounds of coffee I have to pay the government $13.25. Then I go ahead and start the paperwork. If that amount of bags, the paperwork usually takes about 30 days. So as quick as I know what that first number is, then I can go ahead and start my paperwork. So once I've got my paperwork, that gets sent over to the exporter. He makes a report to the FDA. He asks the container company to assign him a container number, and then another another clock starts. So once that guy gives us a container number, and once you get a container number, that means that there's a container in the United States or another country that is on its way to Honduras on that boat that we're going to be using. And so as soon as that container gets unloaded, then it goes straight over to my place and we load it up. Then as soon as it's loaded, as soon as the door's locked, I put that seal on there myself. I take a picture of it. He takes a picture of it. I send it to my exporter. He sends it to his boss. At that point, generally my car is already sitting there with the lunch packed. All the guns are loaded into it, and we go. And so we go from there straight to port. Very seldom we're going to stop. Very rare occasions you would stop. So at that point, we're just rolling as hard as we can to get to port. It's about a 6-hour drive. Every once in a while, we'll get lucky and get to meet up with a caravan of people that he knows. At that point, it's a lot more fun and a lot less stress. At that point, then we're going to be able to stop and eat lunch, stop and have a snack, stuff like that. But one time we drove 6 hours to port. There was no bathroom breaks, no food, nothing. Just kept rolling. Because if you're ever going to get robbed, that's the time you're going to get robbed. And the majority of the time, they're going to shoot the driver. And so I'm not the driver. I'm just the escort vehicle. So all fun aside, we've got the number of how many bags. We sent that. Then we sent that to the government. The exporter, then we call him and tell him how many bags we've got. So he'll start getting us burlap sacks. They won't give us burlap sacks until we give them the number. And generally, the shipper is only going to give us the exact amount of burlap bags that we're shipping. The exporters and big farmers and big mills, they control the burlap market. So that's a whole nasty thing that's happened in the last few years, to where it makes it harder for little guys like me. I used to be an exporter. My number was 06. And I think I can pull this bag up here. No, it won't reach. But my bag number is 06. So that first number, I hope you can see it. The first number is 13. That's Honduras. 06 is the exporter. That's Legacy Farms Coffee. And 012 is how many lots that were shipped that year. And so basically what that means is, well, normally it tells you how big of a company that they are. In our case, it told how many lots were on that container. That's what our number stood for. That was one of my first years to export. And so there was a lot of different farmers that had their coffee in with my coffee. And so there was a couple of women-owned co-ops. And let me put my cards down so I can say women-owned co-ops. And so their coffee went in with my coffee to the United States. Once all that paperwork is started, and that's over a period of a month it takes to do all that, the coffee's in the guys will start taking the burlap. They'll put a grain pro in there, put that on the big set of scales, and then they'll start weighing out to 151.8 pounds, which is what 69 kilos is. So once they've got that bag weighed, then they put a zip tie on it. They twist the top up, double it over, put another zip tie on it, and then that bag is taken to the other side of the room where the women will start either doing the hand stitching, or I'll pay a guy to come out with that handheld sewing machine, and he'll do he'll stitch up the bags. But either way, they get 2 rows of stitching. I like the traditional bags, but some of my customers have complained about them. The bigger customers say it takes too long to get the bag open, which, okay, it does take a little bit longer to get that out. But I love watching them do it, and I've hand stitched a few. I love doing it. In my mind, it takes the women about 3 days to stitch up 200 plus bags. It gives them something to do. They earn a paycheck. I pay the guy, I think $15 is what I pay him to come out and stitch the bags up. So, you know, it's more expensive to have them hand stitch it, but I would much rather them do that. All right, there were a few questions that asked some specifics. Somebody, we talked about the bags are ready. Then the container comes, we ship it. I'll escort it to port, and at port there's these 2 gigantic, they're probably 25-foot tall doors by at least 12 or 14 foot wide each. We pull up there. I jump out of my truck and go over. The trucker gets out. We go over. A guard comes out, and there's paperwork that's signed. They go in. The paperwork gets signed again, and at that point, the guard brings me out a copy. The doors open, and the 18-wheeler pulls in. And once those doors are shut, he's not allowed to leave. And so at that point, I jump in my truck and I go to the Playa Azul, which is a cute little hotel right on the beach. There's one 2-lane road dividing it from the beach. So about 50 feet from front of my hotel, it's sand and the beach. And I can also see my container from there. So I'll go ahead and spend the night there because I'm not going to drive back at night. So it's an expensive hotel. It's like $80 a night. Most of the people speak English, but they got a nice pool. They got a restaurant there. So if I've got one of the boys with me, we'll go down. We'll walk down and grab hit a restaurant and walk through town or something and try to grab an ice cream or a coffee, and then go to the beach, fart around on the beach for a little while. Stay up till at least midnight. Then the next morning, we get our continental breakfast and we head out. We usually try to head out by 9 or 10 o'clock. There's a couple little places we stop. We've got one stop that's a nice little steak restaurant. So we'll hit that every once in a while according to how late we're running. Otherwise, we get to Comayagua, we'll grab a couple pizzas, and then an hour and 30 minutes later, we're back on the farm, and you can sort of breathe out. So that is exporting. Now at this point, the coffee is out of my control. It's sitting at the port. The port is, I'm watching some questions popping up. I'll get to them in just a second. Once that coffee's at the port, then it's just a waiting game. So I just 4 days ago, got notice of what day it's shipped, and I got the container number. So at that point, it's just a waiting game. So like I said earlier, the coffee should be here in my possession on the 30th, barring trouble. If there's trouble, like the U.S. decides to make an inspection, then that's very problematic for us. It's anywhere from $1,000 to $1,800 for an inspection. They don't lift bags that large, so they'll do it with a machine, which is a hoist with 2 big steel hooks. So they slam those hooks in the side of your bag, lift them up, they probe them looking for cocaine, children, or anything else. And so it really tears up the bags when they do that. Some of them, I'm sure, are more conscientious than others, but we had a load come in and there was 60 pounds of coffee in the floor. And so that really makes our life hard. So we pray that that doesn't happen. Somebody made a comment, we sell our burlap bags, and I think they're $10 online. And they said, why are they so expensive? The reason being is you guys that ship know that, let's say, for example, somebody just ordered 6 pounds of green. That'll fit into a padded flat rate for $9.25. I have a stack of burlap bags right here in front of me. If I were to send you a free burlap bag, I would have to take that coffee out of that, put it into a box, and that 6 pounds would ship in a 12 8x10 box, and it's going to be a lot more expensive. So to give somebody a free burlap bag is going to cost me $4 or $5. So what we do is we sort of average out what the cost is. And, we'd love to make some kind of a little profit, because so far the green side has never made a profit. And so we're just hoping this year that the roasted is going to make things ends meet, and we're going to be able to pay off the last of the business loans and stuff like that. We're praying we can get that done by January. So there's not a ton of money in coffee, not if you're going to grow it and roast it. Growing, if you're going to pay well, make a good product, always costs a little more money, and the quality of the process, and just taking care of your workers' needs and the things you don't expect that come along day to day. And being North American, I have to fly back and forth a little more, so it costs me more to grow coffee than it does a lot of people. We can buy coffee. I've got a few customers that I buy coffee for and sell it to them, and I can buy coffee a good deal cheaper than what I can grow it for. So that's just one of the struggles, but it's still worth doing. I love being there. I love my farm. I'm hoping that when I'm 65, I get to retire there and spend a few years there overseeing the farm and stuff like that. And maybe one of the boys will take it over, maybe not. Maybe I'll find a home roaster that's ready to retire and come out there and take it over. But yes, definitely things that we have to think about for the long run. Another person was asking about shipping. Shipping is just crazy. I had a shipper that shipped our coffee one time for $8,000 on contract. It was just an insane amount. We couldn't find anybody else that coffee. He charged us $8,000. We did a contract. It was 88 bags of coffee. So you're talking just rough numbers, 80 bags of coffee, it'd be $100 a bag. That'd be 75 cents a pound. Well, he was planning on the rest of the container being filled with other stuff. And he didn't know, it turned out it was he planned. Yep, it stopped now. I think we're back on again. Things didn't go as he had planned. The other people pulled their shipment at the very last minute. He lost his shirt on it. I'm not sure how much we ended up paying. Just lost customers because the shipment was so late getting here. It was like 90 days late getting here. So there was a lot of misdeception. So we've gone through a couple of different exporters, and none of them have ever seemed like they cared whether or not they did a good job. And so most of them we've used one time. But and I'm not going to say their name because I'm not going to recommend any shipper to anybody. This was their third time to ship our coffee, so I wasn't real thrilled that it was late. It's been sitting at my place since July 10th, ready to ship, and so here it is September. So it's been sitting at my place for a lot longer. It doesn't hurt coffee because it's a controlled environment. But I was not happy that it took them so long to get it shipped this year. But more than likely, they were trying to buy enough coffee that they could put their coffee in and ship it for free. And so last year, our bill was $16,000. So a little bit of that money we get back. I'll explain that to you later. But very little of it, hundreds of dollars we would get back, but not thousands. So you divide that amount into the 204 bags of exportable coffee we had last year. This year, we cut down some different lots and we replanted them last year. So this year's coffee is going to be less than it was last year. So this year, I think we've got 190 bags of coffee coming to the U.S. So the other problem is because it is so late, if you guys that order green have noticed, we've been pulling coffee off the market or off the website because we've run out of washed coffee. We're almost out of honey processed Lempira. So we're having to, I actually used an 86-point Perienema yesterday to make a customer's Jamaica Me Crazy and pumpkin spice. So we're going to buy some coffee, another one of my customers, and use that for flavoring for over the next month until we can get our coffee back in. So there's a lot of craziness. So for 3 weeks, we're hoping that, we don't run out of a couple of things, but we're running low on almost everything, or we're out of a lot of things. I'm watching my battery because I forgot to plug in. But once that coffee gets here, we've got 2 hours to unload the container. Last year, they told us when they left, they said, we'll be there in 18 hours, and they weren't. So in 18 hours, I had a group of, I think about 10 people show up, or 8, I think it was 8 people that showed up at $20 an hour to unload it, and they were 2 hours and 15 minutes late. So you can do the math. So it ended up costing us roughly, we had to buy them lunch to keep them from leaving. So between that and just paying them to sit there, it cost an extra $500 to unload the coffee. So you can't expect everything to go perfectly. So that was the biggest deal last year. This year they're leaving Houston, so we're hoping that they can do Houston in one shot. That would be a blessing if they could, but it's according to whether they store their coffee in the port of Houston or not. But we literally had a guy that his DOT time ran out in Heston, which is 8 miles from us. So at that point, he had to stop, and he had been running so much, he had to stop and do a 6-hour or 8-hour, something like that. So he was just sitting right up the road and didn't tell us about it. So if we'd have known, we could have gotten another trucker to drive his truck that last 8 miles. But you live and learn. So if that's the case this next time, then we'll see if that's an option. But it's very difficult, the exporting process. So once that coffee's here, then we've got 10 days to pay for it. So I've got one customer every year that orders 20 bags of coffee. So roughly that 20 bags of coffee will cover the majority of the shipping cost. It barely covers what it costs us to grow it, but he is a big coffee buyer and he's not willing to pay any more than that. He buys, well, last year I think they said they did about 130,000 pounds of roasted coffee. So if you're a roaster, you can do the math, and that's probably going to be somewhere around 150,000 pounds of green coffee. So he buys a lot of coffee. So he gets the best deals on coffee. So he's not willing to pay us, a fair price for our coffee. But what he does do is he gives us enough money. I'll take that hit so that, because most years I don't have enough money in reserve to pay for the container. So it's sort of a wash for us. We dump 20 bags of coffee. And so this year, I think we got 190. So we can plan on selling and roasting 170 bags of coffee. So that's the way it works. I saw somebody new hopped online. Anybody that's watching, if you want to give us a shout out, I'll try to answer any questions. But we're sort of heading towards the end. Yeah, everything's not showing up on my StreamYard. But that pretty much concludes it. What we're hoping that people will do is let's put together a group of people that want to come on the website. And I just asked T&T Coffee Roasters if they would be willing to come on next Tuesday. So I want to get some small batch roasters, some home roasters, and let's get on there and talk about roasting coffee. And any of you coffee drinkers, jump on and same thing. But guys, I've been trying to hold it to 30 minutes. We're at 36. Thanks for watching. It is Legacy Farms Coffee 2010 on Instagram, Legacy Farms Coffee on Facebook, Legacy Farms Coffee 200 on YouTube. So send me emails at legacyfarmscoffee@hotmail.com, and we will see you either Sunday or next Tuesday. Good chance I'm going to do it Sunday. Sunday, I've got a lot of downtime. And again, I'm going to be hitting Honduras Saturday night. Sometime I'll be back at the house or back at the farm, and we'll do a quick podcast from there. But thanks, guys, for jumping on. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the great questions. Keep them coming, and we'll take care of the questions best we can, or otherwise, always feel free to ask anything while we're online. Or if you want to jump on screen with me, jump on screen. There are no stupid questions, and it's all about just talking about coffee, learning, and having a good time. But we will see you next Tuesday for sure, 7:30 Central. Like it, share it, friend us, all that good stuff. Thanks, guys. Good night.